c'est là.
How can you see into my eyes?
Body should teach you some manners. This world needs my protection. Is that all you got, fat? You.
Really quickly before we dive into the figure some more, I just wanted to talk about why I say this figure is, or why it's crazy that this figure actually even exists. Obviously, this figure. The main reason behind that I think is actually crazy that the figure exists in the first place is because, believe it, more than likely you know this, but Super Saiyan 5 is not canon in Dragon Balls. It is just a fan-made thing. And the origins of the fan-made thing is even crazier. The whole art piece, which is what it's based off, this drawing right here, right? That drawing was done by someone from Spain, actually, and essentially he did it. It was just a fan drawing that he submitted into a gaming magazine that they had a whole section dedicated to fan art, and they would put it in if people sent it in, and they put it in, and essentially he titled it at the bottom, as you can tell in the drawing, Dragon Ball AF. AF was just his initials, but because people were so thirsty for the content of Dragon Ball at this time, because GT had just ended and there was that big old gap between GT ending and obviously between GT and Super, especially considering that was supposed to be the end of the series. There was this big large gap in between that where we didn't have any content, and it had just became very largely popular as well on top of that, because of all the dubs had been pretty much done across the world at this point, so everyone was just really hungry for the content. So and the drawing was very well done, and apparently that person is actually still creating or still making art to this day, which, you know, good on him for still sticking to his passion. But a lot of people were just convinced that it stood for After Future, and it became this whole huge thing where people made plots, and you know, we're making like fan edited drawings and, you know, things like that. So it became this really big thing. It even became to the point where there was a manga series that was actually made by fans for the fans, obviously, and there was all kinds of different crazy plot points and stuff, and obviously one of them was Super Saiyan 5, you know, Goku unlocking that. If you want to know more about this though, I'm going to put 2 links of videos that I learned most of this stuff from. So if you're interested in learning more about this, I'm going to leave those 2 links in the description. So, but yeah, let's dive back into that figure. Everything this guy comes with, he comes with 6 different pairs of hands, a cross-arm accessory, and 4 different faceplates. I kind of wish he would have came with more, and I also wish he would have came with some more like just straight hands like this. I ended up having to use an sh Figure Arts one for that shot with him chopping Beerus's head off. So that is another thing you can definitely do with these figures, just change their parts. You know, as far as hands, if you want him to have a certain type of pose and you have an sh Figure Arts that has those hands, you can definitely interchange them. I don't really care for these arms too much personally. They're not horrible. It's not that they look bad or anything like that, but I'll get into a little bit more reason why. But yeah, he comes with a decent amount of stuff. I have a picture up of all of the different faceplates right now, and let's get into the detail. The detail on this figure, I think it's pretty well detailed. I really like the fact that they really based it off of the drawing a whole lot. Like, they they have the hair that is supposed to be, coming down to his shoulders, flowing down a little bit. They also included the really long one hair that he has here in the drawing. Also, the skirt and the boots, they got the detailing right as far as one having a different color and that one having a different color, right? The little bracelet arm, and overall the fur looks really good as well. I feel like if my only complaints as far as detailing goes is this faceplate in particular annoys me a little bit because of the way that the eyes are. Now, some SH Figure Arts figures have it where you can move the eyes from inside. This one doesn't, and that doesn't inherently bother me, but what does bother me is the fact that his pupils are off to the side, like looking down. And you might be saying, well, you could always interchange the faces, and that is true to an extent, but I do like this face expression. It's him like kind of just like annoyed or pissed off. But my issue is with the eyes, as I said, they're like pointed down. While I do like the expression, I don't like the fact that his eyes are just like looking down this way. So if I'm having a fight, it makes no sense if I want the dude to be over here. Like Goku has to like turn over here and be like this, you know what I mean, instead of just having him stare straight directly at the person. So that's a little bit of annoyance to me, but yeah, let's dive into the articulation. As far as the articulation goes, it's pretty good. As you can see, I can get him into poses. Admittedly though, I do have to use a whole lot of stands in posing this guy just because of how heavy his hair is, but that's to be expected with how big it is. I can't really think of a way that they could have made it where it wouldn't have been very top heavy, so I can't complain all that much. But it does pose still pretty good regardless of that. I mean, I've had other figures that don't even have as much plastic on them on top, and they're still top heavy somehow, so I can't complain too much. One of the things when it comes to the articulation that it's really good on is it has the butterfly joints, like actually in here. Like, they're really, really good as far as, I don't really particularly care for how it's cut, as far as, how it's built into the figurine. But, I mean, considering, I don't like the way it looks exactly, but considering I'd rather sacrifice kind of the look for some better articulation, so isn't the biggest deal to me. But, I mean, if it wasn't for the hair, I think that cut would literally make it where it would make it better than even an SH Figure Arts. Like, I have an SH Figure Arts Goku here as an example. Goku doesn't even have, like, those inner cuts like this. The arms, on their own, though, do go out pretty freaking far, so I mean, it's not like SH Figure Arts really needs to do it, considering, they, like I said, the arms go out pretty far anyway, so. But yeah, articulation is pretty goddamn good on this dude. As far as his scaling goes, I think he works pretty good with the SH Figure Arts line. He is a little bit bigger than this Goku, but that's mostly due to the hair. That's the recent God figure that they did of the Super Saiyan God. And of course, you have the Dragon Ball Stars Beerus over here, which again, he's a bit taller than him because of the hair. I'm not quite sure how that would be in or out of scale. I personally think it's okay. He just fell, but it's alright. I think it's okay as far as his scaling with the Beerus, just merely because some people like to say Beerus is like 7 foot. But my issue with many of the times with when people say the height comparison thing, it is because of his ears. I don't really think you should be counting the ears of the guy. It's the same thing with like Vegeta and like Goku to me. Everyone goes from the tip of their hair down to their goddamn to their toe, right? Obviously. You go from here to here for the hair, but to me you shouldn't be counting the freaking hair. This guy's having a... Anyways, we're back. As I was saying, as far as his scaling goes, I feel like a lot of people exaggerate how tall Beerus is, because again, they're going to the top of his ear, which to a certain point I understand, but also, like, I feel like some people just like scale him really out of proportionally because of that, especially with like people when they have their hair. To me, I don't know, when I go to count my height, I don't count my hair. Like, it's like an extra inch or whatever. Like my hair sticks up a bit, but to me that isn't a part of my height, that's just my hair. besides all that though, the figure stacks up pretty well with all these figures here. With the G.I. Joe custom Mike Tyson there, the stars, the sh figure arts, Amazing Yamaguchi looks really good next to it. And of course you got the Jack Pacific Shadow, which I picked up recently. That Shadow might be a little big for the 1/12 scale, but honestly you could make it. As far as my negatives and my positives with this figure is very top heavy. And again, I mentioned this earlier, I dislike the eyes being tilted this way for that faceplate. Wish he was just standing straight forward, just because I do really like the serious face expression, but I hate the fact that he's kind of even looking down to a certain point, like he's looking at someone. And again, this would have been fine if maybe they had those little eyes inside that where you can move them around, but they don't. So I wish they would have just made the faceplate or face print, you know, him looking dead straight. Another negative with this figure, which has to do with these, is for a couple of photos, as you probably saw earlier, I had these arms on him, and for that you basically have to unplug these arms, and putting these fucking arms back on was the biggest headache I've ever gone through. And maybe that's just an issue with mine, or maybe just the fact that I bought it off secondhand market off of someone on eBay. Like I could maybe, that could maybe be the case, but to me the dude seemed to have it like almost essentially brand new. So it was quite annoying. And another thing I found quite annoying is when you do take these arms off, this muscle here is just kind of a part that goes over the arm, and it was kind of annoying to try and figure out what was the front, what was the back for the arm and stuff. And overall, just plugging it back in was just not a very fucking pleasant experience. It was really pissing me off. And yeah, man, that's some of my negatives. It's also very top heavy, as you can tell. I have a stand on it, but to me the top heavy thing was just kind of a given with how the hair is and stuff. So it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make with that. But the arms thing is really unacceptable. The fact that it was so difficult to plug them back in for something that should be super simple. Another thing I wish this figure would have another thing negative towards this figure is the fact I wish it would have come with some type of blast effects. I know with some of these figures by Kong Studios, you can order an extra piece a lot of the times with like extra blast effects and stuff, but to me it should just come with the figure overall. Unless I'm wrong and it did come with them, but to my knowledge it didn't, even with it just being with the original release. So that's my negatives with this figure. Also kind of wish, even though I'm cool with how the tail is, Jesus Christ, I don't know why the fuck I couldn't get that out, but I kind of wish they would have given us a swappable tail to have it just wrapped around his body, much like they do with the Super Saiyan 4 figures. Okay, so I was wrong about that. The SH Figure Arts 4 figures don't come with the tail wrap, but what I mean is like kind of how this Raditz image is, how the tail's around his body. I kind of wish they would have brought that with it, but yeah, just because I think that would make it a bit easier. I know in the drawing and in the fan depictions his tail was just out, but I do wish they would have just made it where, you know, you could have had it wrapped around him. But at the end of the day, this figure still is cool. And would I recommend this figure? To answer the question, is this figure worth it? I would say yes. The fact that we're getting stuff from, even if it's not an official company or not official Dragon Ball merch, the fact that we're getting a Super Saiyan 5 figure in itself is just amazingly dope. Especially if you're just a huge Dragon Ball fan. I mean, honestly, if you're Hispanic and you're not a Dragon Ball fan, are you really even fucking Hispanic? Like, I'm just saying, man, I don't think you can be Mexican and fucking not be a fan of Dragon Ball. You know, Mexicans have a couple rules. You know, you don't talk shit about Dragon Ball, you don't talk shit about Selena, and you definitely don't talk shit about Vicente Fernandez. People will fucking kill you for that. But yeah, overall, this figure is absolutely dope. Again, I recommend it if you can get it for a reasonable price, because some people be trying to charge way too much. I paid around $100 for mine, plus shipping. Again, it's a bit pricey, and I should have just jumped on it when, you know, Kong Studios was putting these guys out. But I was a bit of a broke boy at the time, so it is what it is. And yeah, again, definitely would recommend this guy. But yeah. Very quickly, just wanted to say thank you for watching, especially if you made it to the end. And let me know what you think of the video, if you liked it. If there was things that I can improve on, I'm always open to criticism for the most part. Besides that, though, hope you're having a good day. And I guess for the message of today, remember that not everyone has your best interest in mind. You know, it's an unfortunate fact of life, but not everyone is really looking out for you like that. And unfortunately, of course, that's why you try and surround yourself with the best people you can, who do look out for you, who are trying to motivate you for the most part. But that's not always everyone. And here and there, people aren't really looking out for you like you think you are. So yeah, that's the message of today. But hope to see you next time, man. And up until then, stay safe.